My name is Rhapsody, and welcome back to Disco Elysium. Alright, let's have this conversation. Excuse me? Would you like to allow me to have this conversation, please? Game? Thank you.
So you talked to my associates, right? Are you going to help us? With the
Can't,
church, I mean.
can't say, gotta ask questions first.
Shoot.
Your associates tried to use me to set up a drug lab. I'm guessing you knew of this plan? I did, and I'm sorry. She doesn't appear surprised. For what it's worth, which isn't much. This is why I didn't go into the tent. The lieutenant looks at the ocean, squinting his eyes. Typical delinquency. You didn't get to choose your posse. They choose you. Mine are idiots, but they're mine. I tried to talk to Andre out of it, but I even tried not to lie to you. Indeed, she merely tried to admit the truth instead. Instead, you opted to admit the truth. It is the same thing. I know. But I knew you'd see through their plan too. I'm not an idiot. I should have been able to control them. I will in the future, I promise. May I ask, what did you tell them? Do what you will with your dance club plans, just no drug labs, please. Thank you. The young woman nods. I'll get them onto wraps, I promise. The others told me you went inside the church. What'd you see there? Oh, you're never gonna believe me. There's no point in telling you. She's less prone to blurting out Crabman than the others. We'll see. Go ahead and tell me. Okay. She nods. I went in and saw a woman next to one of those machines there. Noid calls it a mainframe. She was dressed like someone who's being raised by their grandmother, you know? Strange old clothes. Had this absent expression. Didn't say anything. Just stood still. Go on. And then, you know, right behind her, a man walked down the wall. Crawled down the wall. Upside down like a crab. Down the church wall. I think the woman didn't even know he was there. He was completely silent. He stopped right before he got to the floor and then just hung there like that, looking at me. Right at me. I fucking turned around and walked out. End of story. Like a crab, you say? The lieutenant nods. His face is stern. What did the crab man look like? It was too dark. She shakes her head. I couldn't tell exactly. Come on, she obviously could. She already went into detail. Come on, quit stalling on me. What did he look like? He looked like a banger, okay? He was all muscular and stuff. Had a mesh tank top. I know it sounds ridiculous, but that only made it scarier in a way. A crab and a banger? The lieutenant raises an eyebrow. Yeah, a banger. As in mess gang member? I know what it sounds like, but that's what I saw. A gangster crab man. Screw it, I believe you. You were wrong. I believe you. She raises a brow. Why? What do you stand to gain? Nothing. Anyway, what else? I'd like to know more about your associates. My associates? She blows on her chilled fingers. I haven't got that much to say about them. Clearly. Just answer the question, please. Sorry, I just don't tell people about my friends and who they are and so on. I don't provide information on them. To the cops. What about you? Tell me a little something about yourself. Me? I'm a silver bird. Ah, okay. Maybe I'll ask later about all this. I don't really understand what they're talking about in the whole silver bird thing. Don't know what makes you think it'll be any different later, but... Let's see if, having completed the conversation with her, I can now have a conversation inside and say, Adele told me everything. And then they're like, oh, what? And then they tell me everything. And then I go back out and I'm like, Adele, they told me everything.
So,
Alright, no.
Good morning, comrade. Yeah.
If the only thing I accomplished through the entirety of this game is turning Egghead into a communist, then you know what? Well done. As far as I'm concerned, that could be my my character's main quest. I'm completed. I'm fulfilled. Right, so I do have the church down there to go to, but I still haven't actually explored up in this direction. I also haven't found a good spot along the coast to have a date with Lillian. because we're, what, 6:45 p.m. at the moment? Which means 2.5 hours around until Kim wants to leave. And then, oh, hang on, we go around this way. And then as soon as Kim wants to leave, I can... I can flirt with Lillian. Heavy wooden doors, more than twice your height, stand shut in front of you. The rectangular, sea-worn ornamentation appears in stark contrast to the padlock carelessly drilled into the wood. Inspect the carpentry. The carving on the door is block-like and angular, like the church itself. 2 large beams shoot downwards, sinking into the wood before they reach the threshold. Run your hand over the beam. The surface is smooth from the outside, but moist to the touch. I'm going to inspect it again and then back up and look at the door. The door remains unchanged, closed with a padlock. Take a closer look at the padlock. This cheap-looking padlock is sturdily built. It shackles together a hasp and steeple screwed into the wooden door. The lock is adorned with a yellow sticker. It'll be easier to break this staple than the lock. Also, that sticker is interesting somehow. Look at the sticker. You see a yellow circle with 2 X's and a big curve below them that looks kind of like a mouth. You're pretty sure you haven't seen it before, but what the picture depicts is clear enough. A smiling dead guy. The curve makes it smile and the X's make it dead. There's something blindingly modern about this symbol. Its modernness puts to shame everything you've seen before. What makes it so modern? It's the contrast between the cheery chemical yellow and the rigor mortis. As if the dead guy didn't know he was dead, or the dead guy didn't care that he was dead. Either way, you get the sense the forces of the future at work here. So, a dead guy with a smile on his face. Our hanged man, we had a feeling that he was feeling euphoria when he died, and it turns out it was true. I think they're kind of like carrying on that theme here. Have you seen this symbol before? Point to it. He takes off his glasses and uses a blue handkerchief to thoroughly wipe them before inspecting the sticker. He looks up, pauses, and replies. No. What does it look like to you? Looks like a dead man smiling. Celeste's junior delinquency. What's suggestive of junior delinquency here? I haven't seen that sticker before, and I am not a youth. I agree, it's very modern, but does the cheery guy not know he's dead, or does the dead guy not care that he is? What's the source of the irony here? That level of conceptual thinking is not part of my skill set. Try to peel off the sticker without ripping it. Oh, hell yeah, high interfacing, get it. Got it. There's nothing like the sound of a sticker unpeeling. Now it's stuck to your thumb. Put your sticker in your ledger after the last entry where it belongs. Put the sticker on your ledger, right on the cover. After the last entry where it belongs. Style your paperwork. Looks like today was a gold star day. Inspect the padlock with a key. Lock turns easily. You hear click as the shackle pops open. Let's go. The lieutenant nods at you. Pull on the doors. As you do, you hear and echo, I imagine an echo, of the doomed commercial area. It's black halls and dusty machines. The feeling passes. A great of air rushes into the dark innards of the church, as though rushing to fill a great vacuum in the heart of the city. Oh, that's a where I can compute. That's a where I can compute, you know. A strange stillness fills you as you look ahead. You should walk here, not run. Okay. I choose to walk then. I was given that note. I'm gonna walk around the whole place, which is gonna make the traversal a little slower. The blackboard is filled with complex equations. They look recent. So someone's clearly been working on something in here. The bowl is filled with water. A live wire runs directly into it. Puzzle time! This is a puzzle. That's why they're giving me the big view here. The silence is part of the church. It's almost palpable. All the shifting matter and shuffling of living things is gone. No one seems to exist, or rather nothing seems to exist beyond the church anymore. Maybe if you was to stand in the right spot, even your footsteps would be completely silent. Wait, I think I still hear something. And then it's gone. almost all of it, but for the faintest of hums. It seems that the sound here is detached from the source somehow, if not blotted out outright. Truly unusual. You can hardly hear your own breathing. I don't really want to do the loud things, but fine. Yell, I'd like to hear the echo. Yell as loud as you can. Your voice is barely audible. Not a howl, but the softest of whimpers. Stomp your feet and clap your hands. You produce a few muffled thumps, after which the silence feels even more total somehow. Okay, so this is a sound dampening machine. Kim, what's happening? The lieutenant points to his ears and shakes his head. Then he leans closer. Can you hear anything? Not really, but it's extraordinary. I never experienced anything like this. Something abnormally depriving me of a key sense in a situation where I feel safe, to me, would be just like extraordinary, mind-blowing. Like, wow, that's cool as hell. Oh, this is just silent here. Interesting. And considering, like, I imagine my main character feels pretty safe in this circumstance, so not really, it's extraordinary. I wonder why the church was built with such strange acoustics. His detached tone conceals how uncomfortable he is. Whatever it is, it's definitely real. Something odd is happening around us. The lieutenant doesn't reply, but you can sense him tense up next to you. Look at the bell tower. Challenging on sight. Sure. The orderly rows of ceiling panels become barely visible, then disappear completely in the darkness of the tower overhead. Try to see beyond the shadows. Damn, that sucks. What are we being shown? Just darkness without end. It makes your head spin. What's the darkness like? Filled with vague shapes of woodwork. The sense of a great height. Try to make out something, anything. There's nothing. You're disorientated and dizzy, and you see dark and more dark, rising. Officer, what are you looking at? He follows your gaze, attempting to see whatever it is you're seeing. Blink. Nothing. That's what I'm saying. Nothing at the moment. Oh! Yes, Crabman. You see... Oh, Tiago. You see something hanging from the rafters, looking straight at you with dark eyes. Maybe it's possible to talk to it? I feel like I should probably explore before I talk to it. The only reason being, possible boosts in conversation. A cracked pane of glass. Colorful. A spider has spun its web around this wood-carved pillar. Let's see if any of these have updated in an interesting way. She'll open up later after you've helped them set up the nightclub. Set up the nightclub. Find a tape. Noid says the we're not in sync. Prove one of the crew. Yeah, that could be useful as well. Return to the Feld mural and consult the wind if you don't know what to do. Other than that, keep searching the coast. Interesting. That's only shivers will allow me to do that, and I can't level my shivers up anymore, can I? No, I can. I can level my shivers up. Okay, I've got a couple banked points of level over there. Inspect the traps. Check the trap in the lands. And far northeast of the Feld building. Okay, we're over near there at the moment. And then the rest of those are not updated. Cool. Pair of shoes over here. I'd love a good, decent pair of kicks. Give me some sneaks. Last one to empathy. Mesk Bangers Red Brogues. These dapper snakeskin shoes have almost an invisible white-on-white flower motif sewn into the tongue. The toe caps are still dusty from lying in the church. +1 empathy for being in someone else's shoes. I love it. My current one, -1 to savoir-faire, but +1 to composure. My composure's already pretty good. I'll pop that on for a little bit more empathy. Actually, also, I should probably change a little bit of the rest of the outfit. Esprit de corps and visual calculus is probably better than the shivers for us at the moment. -1 to empathy, but +2 pain threshold and volition seems to me a pretty good idea. Also, something clinged when I turned those on. I got a cling. I'm gonna put on the into Iceland trousers just in case something happens for putting them on. I got like super high logic from these, but I've lowered my perception. Perception seems like it's probably going to be relevant in this room, so let's see if none of those increase my perception. These are some wonderfully regular pants. Not too tight, not too loose. Moderate in every sense. You'll blend right in at some pleasant dinner party. Oh, it's a fashion faux pas. Discard the thought and the pants. Let's hope no one saw you wearing those outrageously regular, almost moralist pants. Didn't think that was going to be the way we dealt with it, but sure. All right, pantsless detective. Let's go. Okay. I'm not going to pass up stats just to be a pantsless detective. Negative to soft warfare. I mean, they're both electrochemistry. This one's negative to reaction speed. My reaction speed's pretty good. So I guess I should probably wear these then, right? And then these glasses are for logic over authority. Let's take the drink out of my hand as well. Just for the extra suggestion. All right. Just checking out the place. I know you're waving to me. I'll come down. I'll talk to you in a bit. Or you can come down and talk to me? Someone's going to have to come down from somewhere. Scarf? It is. Mesk Banger's silk scarf. +1 to threshold. Pain threshold, that is. This huge red scarf is still dusty from lying in the church. A subtle red-on-red embroidery embellishes it with cocky roosters and mesk floral motifs. A figure drawn in frost on the window depicting a deer. Did that say motives? Surely it's motifs. Again, though, there have been a couple translation errors in this game, so fair. But it's just whether or not I have a misunderstanding of the idea of how to pluralize motif. That said something. I hope you read it, because I didn't. I was too busy, Weirdly, when I talk directly to the audience, I look a little bit away from the actual game as it's occurring on the screen, and off to my second monitor, where there's the recording software with a little smaller screen on the inside of it, with the game inside that, and I look at that when I'm addressing. It's weird. It's just a habit, I guess. This grotesque wooden figure looks half-finished. Feels like it's trying to become one with the church. Just keep walking, just keep walking. The more of the forked lightning pattern you saw outside, rather. Bark beetles? No, it looks intentional. Some long-forgotten style. Alright. 2 decks of reel-to-reel tapes spinning on empty. A portable hum-on Wowsheed tape recorder. It's possible it's recording something? Someone's siphoning electrical current from outside into this antenna. A machine stands in the corner, watched over by figures on the stained glass window. It's turned on and quivering with soft electricity. Another radio computer, says the lieutenant, stepping closer. And this time, it's already turned on. He seems cautious around the machine. These machines sometimes harbor traps, he thinks, alarm systems and the likes. Let's be careful. We should probably let it be. It's becoming clear that there's no trace of the suspect anywhere inside the church. Yes, but this machine looks just like the one in the Doom commercial area. It's quite similar to the one we found have at the station. Must be the same model. He inspects the machine's framework, careful not to touch anything. The one you saw earlier was the REM Civic. This is the REM Prefect, a model number RC7024, equipped with a Feld mainframe and the REM-compatible interim printer. The REM Prefect is the governmental version of the commonly used REM Civic model. Although mostly based on the same technology, the REM Prefect is equipped with better noise attenuation circuits. So did someone build an amplifier for the noise attenuation circuits out of it through the whole church? Wait, just let me investigate it. Step behind the computer. You see a virescent play and print button on the keyboard. A hatch connected to the central compartment is wide open. The lieutenant says nothing. You see the machine's glowing frame reflected back on his diamond-shaped glasses. You're free to proceed. Look inside the compartment. Behind the hatch sits a cube-like crisscross of filaments, smoldering in the dark like fireflies. Silver tape on the side says in black marker, log, Feb to Mar. Another filament memory. Press play to talk with the repeater. I don't want to, nothing with that yet. Let's have a look at this. Stained glass window. In white, silver, and apricot faience. I do not know that word. Faience? 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 The young mother of humanism stands before you. Oh, is this Dolores Dei? A crack runs along her body. She's impossibly tall, oval-faced and sad, a dark and radiant majesty. This is her innocence, Dolores Dei. Cradled in her arms are a pair of glowing lungs, clearly visible from underneath her flowering dress. You should kneel. So, if it's not immediately clear from most of the things about me, I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm not a particularly religious person. Kneel to a broken stained glass window of someone who was admittedly, apparently quite good for the world. So I don't think this is done out of any I don't think this is done out of any like spiritual relation, at least my character. But I'm gonna kneel, and the reason I'm gonna do it is because piety, reverence, spiritualism, if you want to call them any of those, they don't necessarily have to be directly tied to the idea of the supernatural elements proposed by, you know, religious texts, often at least. They don't necessarily have to be tied to those. They can be for their own sake. And reverence, broadly, I think is a virtue. So sure, provide reverence. Kneel. Your knees touch the floor. The floorboards are cold and hard, and you kneel among the snowdrifts, diffuse light falling on your hands from beyond the glass. Close your eyes first. The world is silent here, but for the creaks and cracks of the massive wooden structure behind you. It covers you from the wind outside. The ocean feels distant, its ebb and flow blocked off by the centuries-old pinewood sarcophagus around you. In the darkness, you sense her eyes on you, inspecting you with their multicolored glass, as if you're a bug under a microscope. Open your eyes. The woman looks down at you kneeling. She towers among her followers, architects, laymen, courtiers. There's a sad smile on her lips, and a glint in her green-blue eye of what? Compassion? Remorse? She acknowledges the passing of someone who is still alive. You. It's compassion, it's remorse, it's mourning, it's not possible to live. Ooh. It's compassion. As that soft word passes through your mind, the lieutenant draws an X-shaped cross from shoulder to shoulder. Do the same as you get up. Your fingertips touch your chest 4 times. Then you rise from your knees into the apricot-colored light of the window. Above you, the woman still smiles, her distant smile, sundered by the crack of the glass. This is Dolores Dei. Oh, visual calc, told you. I read The Greatest Innocence, excellent. How did I know this is the mother of humanism? Despite the damage you've done to yourself, the title appears lodged in your hippocampus. This is her innocence, Dolores Dei, the innocence of humanism, internationalism, and the welfare state. Perhaps the most famous human being to ever have lived. No amount of Commodore Red can wipe her sad smile from your brain thing. It survived the deluge and haunts you still. It will haunt you forever, as it haunts all men. What exactly is an innocence? I read a book, but it was fuzzy. Yeah, kind of. The highest category of historic individual, an embodiment of the world spirit. A ruler? More. An innocence is elected to office by the founding party, a precedent that has taken place a mere 6 times in the entirety of history. The legal system of Real Belt is built to accommodate innocentric rule, should it coincide with our time. An innocence is infallible. The decisions made by one are not decisions, they are inevitabilities. What would have happened anyway, only accelerated, packed into decades instead of centuries. An innocence is continuous, compressed event, a sacred human being. It is an honor and a glory to live when one is in office. Is one in office now? No. We are alone. So that seems to be kind of like, seems to be like God made manifest, right? Effectively. And the is one in office now, no, we're alone is kind of the God is dead position if you take the innocence as God made manifest. Okay, when did you rule? 300 years ago, in the wake of the discovery of this insula, the Insulindian, by explorers on the continent of Mundi. She is, among other things, the innocence of inter-isolary travel and the connected world. What else do I know about her? Many things. You know, she was a woman of the court, a wife of the influential Marchese? I'm going to say Marchese. And eventually, the principal advisor to Irene la Navigateur, queen of the Seresni? I just want a pronunciation guide game, please. Modern day Sieur Leclerc. Also, that she was gorgeous beyond beauty. Draped in ancient sadness. Are you sure you want to remember this bit of historical trivia? Standing under her long, slender form like this, dwarfed? Where is it coming from? The past. It's a silo of sadness, fermenting. You should keep away. No, you must know. Okay, what else? Was she smart? Terribly. Women of the court were expected to play both contract bridge and chess sufficiently well to prove an interesting challenge to a man. A similar grasp in matters of philosophy, theology, and science was encouraged. She was, by all means, a kept woman. She made the most of her position in the antediluvian court. The court visited by the most prominent thinkers and artists of the day. In secret, she was becoming the era's preeminent philosopher of the state. A scalpel, a piercing gaze. She was an almost preternaturally magnetic and intelligent individual. To her contemporaries, she appeared out of time, a messenger from the future of the species. We all fell in love with her, head over heels. Even before she was declared an innocence, her influence was tremendous. How come? It was on her advice that Irene le Navigateur sponsored a number of voyages into the Pale. Pale Blue Yonder, is that it actually? A costly, often tragic endeavor, ultimately vindicated by the discovery of the new world, the piece of reality you're standing on. She was crowned 2 years after the first expedition returned, setting in motion what is widely considered the greatest era in history, the DeLorean era. Wow. Wow indeed. When her innocence was declared, and the queen she had advised for years fell on her knees before her, she was so overcome with emotion that her lungs started glowing in her chest. Bystanders reported golden filaments lighting the already sunlit chamber around her, clearly visible beneath her dress. This is why the lungs are the symbol of love for the cultures of the Rial Belt. I want more! Give me more information! As did we all. The lands of Mesk and the Occident, and even the faraway Supramundi. Although 21 of the 40 mondial nations of the time, altogether rather 21 of the 40 mondial nations of the time, immediately accepted innocent rule. Even before her crowning. Her crowning? In a city called Ad Vespa Asit, in Vespa Messina, her homeland. The name of the city means evening comes, but it happened on a winter's morning, with the canals frozen and slush falling out of the sky. She was dressed in a white and pearl dress on an emptied out plaza, with the crowd far away. Already her Theriers, the secret servicemen of the Innocents, were worried about an assassination attempt. She must have been beautiful. Oh yes, she looked like humanity's young mother, a perfect mother, insultingly beautiful. It was as if her face and shoulders and hands were covered in a soft down of underfeathers. You know this well. Very well. Breakthrough imminent! I finally figured out my birth date! Midwinter snow was beating the cobblestones around her. A small attaché of officials stood by her as Theriers placed a white gold wreath on her head. The crowning was mostly witnessed by the Secret Servicemen. Then what? One of her men in the Secret Service killed her, 22 years later. A young man who had not come to suspect that Dolores Dei was not entirely human, or who had come to suspect that Dolores Dei was not entirely human, but something else. What? Something that had walked in our midst, watched us stumble for hundreds, if not thousands of years until it decided to interfere in the course of our history. We were supposed to come up with this ourselves, the man was reported to have screamed at the Innocents. Dolores Dei was shot in the chest with a fowling piece 8 times. The man, thought to be insane, said he once touched her and her body had been unnaturally warm, like a furnace, and that sometimes while on duty he observed her forgetting to breathe for over 10 minutes. This inhuman quality was witnessed by others as well, glowing lungs and all. It's commonly attributed to mass hysteria and religious psychology. That's what I would assume. And obviously, like, the tales being apocryphal. Was there something terrifying about her? Terrifying is a term too emotionally charged for your semantic memory, or what remains of it, but terrifying. It's a simple word. She was bad for humanity and you shouldn't have started thinking about her. Screw you, Inland Empire! No. Was there something bad about her? I need to know. You already do. Although she was considered to be the greatest human being ever lived, there was something ominous about Dolores Dei, constantly surrounded by her Theriers. She was the most socially secluded and least self-aware of all the Innocences. Some modern thinkers would consider her a war criminal for the campaigns she waged against the Mesk state. And there were resettlement programs. What happened? The Mesk state tried to detach itself from innocentric rule. Parts of the world were experiencing whiplash from accelerating into secularism. Her mandatory education programs and mass resettlement of upstream Magritte were problematic as well. Dissenters were suppressed by military force she'd called the Army of Humanity, suggesting those who fight against it are not part of humanity. She adored chess, yes, but also military war games. Dolores Dei often holds a tiny tin soldier between her index finger and thumb, in icons such as this. She was also blonde, the blondest woman you've ever seen, with green eyes the color of the Pizantic, Mare Interregnum. Little is known of her Marchese husband. It's as if he vanished from history after completing his role. which was to introduce Dolores Dei to the court. In conclusion, yes, there is something lonely, paranoid, and even terrifying that people seldom mention, but feel when they think of her. The subtle terror is part of her iconography. Lieutenant Jeffreto, you stood there for over 5 minutes. The lieutenant's calm voice echoes through the cold air of the church. What's you thinking of, might I ask? Yell war criminal! Why did we tolerate this bourgeois woman that long before we shot her? Glowing lungs? That's fucked up. She's somehow connected to the case. Nothing, just looking around. She's beautiful. She's not human. So, I think... what they're trying to introduce here is, like, even the most revered figures have things about them that you'd rather not know. There's a Tim Minchin song called "The Fence," and it's about how nothing is so black and white, that there's a gray in many cases, and in particular, it's talking about for a large part of the song, icons, people that have become idols, people that have become revered for certain causes, but the people who revere them would reject certain parts of, like, for instance, Che Guevara's homophobia, for instance, the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan monks' abuse of the poor, or suppression of the poor in the Tibetan state, those kinds of things, right? It's promoting a kind of more holistic view of those that we revere. And I think that's effectively what the text is trying to get through to us at this point, right? Even being, you know, of humanism, of the welfare state, of broadly, I guess you would say equity. Even through that, she was violently suppressing a nation, right? But how do you ultimately rule on figures like that? Does it matter? Does that person matter? Does your opinion of them matter more than the symbol they've become afterwards? That's something that is confronted by a lot of texts as well, right? The kind of idea of let them die a hero, like bury the truth about them. Like, obviously, you know, Dark Knight 2 has got a lot of that in Harvey Dent. What would another example? Another example would be actually in an episode of Rick and Morty, where the mayor has a very awful secret that they choose to allow the people to continue revering him through by suppressing the secret. Because they matter as a symbol at that point, right? They matter as a martyr, even. But that depends on the understanding of that idol, I guess, broadly. Because I can imagine there's probably a large amount of MESC states that probably don't see her as the great equalizer. They probably see her as an oppressor. So is it contextual? Does it base itself, like, does your opinion of them base itself on to whom you speak? It can't. You have to get way too much context for that to be useful. And saying she's not human is... Surely there's nothing more human than being more complicated than being able to be resolved down to a simple, this person's good. This person's bad. Ah! Game! You're real interesting. I'll tell you that much. I think the one that passes the least judgment expresses reverence for the position they play in history, without necessarily completely ignoring a large amount of her rule, would be to say something neutral here. But neutral only includes she's somehow connected to the case, which I don't believe. I have no reason to say that. So it's a neutral answer, but my character wouldn't say it in this circumstance. If it wasn't an option there, I wouldn't be thinking, oh, there should be something here that says she's somehow connected to the case. Glowing lungs, I mean, that's a opinion rendered on this artwork that I'm assuming isn't completely representative. Why did we tolerate the bourgeois? No. Like, yes, I've chosen over the course of this, like, a couple, like, leaning a little bit more into hardcore leftist rhetoric than I typically would, just because I wanted to see some of the results. I think, like, where I stand is pretty clear. I don't really need to elucidate that. So no, I'm not going to be going with that one. Nothing just looking around. No, obviously there's a lot being thought of here. So it's a neutral one, but it's not a neutral one I want to take, which leaves me with she's beautiful, she's not human, and war criminal. Is someone capable of being redeemed despite being a war criminal? Are they? I mean, there's a lot of people in... there's a large amount of acceptance of political hierarchy in the US has to be based on the position that, yes, it is. Or of ignorance. Of... I'm so torn. I'm torn between she's beautiful and war criminal. I'll say that. Just because it has ... at the end, which implies the possibility that there is more left unsaid, I will say she's beautiful. That she is. A great sacral piece. I wonder what we're doing here, though. He takes his glasses off to clean them. In this church, I mean. The coast in general. We shouldn't linger. This is a good place to get lost in. This is Dolores Dei. Yes. He looks around. I wasn't sure before, but this must be the Dolorian Church of the Humanity in Martinez. It's called the Small Pinewood Church in some records. Knew of this place? It's a minor landmark. Not easy to find. Most maps misplace it. He lowers his voice. It was built not long after Revachol's founding, 300 or so years ago, by the first generation settlers. On the coasts of the uninhabited archipelago, where only animals had roamed before in the wild reeds. What else do you know? There used to be 7 staved churches on the coast. Les Sept Sœurs, they called them. The 7 sisters. Only one remains. The rest were burnt in the revolution, or used for building materials. We should be respectful here, although the building does appear deserted. I do not believe we'll find the instigator here. Something else, perhaps. He looks around at the machinery lying about. Respectful? Is the lieutenant a follower of DeLoreanism? A pang of guilt. The lieutenant is leaving something out. Do you know why it was abandoned? I have a duty, yes. There's a pause, then he continues. There was a police raid here a while back. I heard the place was shot to pieces. Who conducted the raid? Well, your station was involved, I hear, although I can't be sure. How come a lieutenant isn't sure? Is this confidential information? You're not sure? 3 precincts were involved in the raid and people say 41 was among them. I look around. I guess I could have been here. I'm sorry, I'm not saying you were. There's a pause. It was a clandestine operation. I don't know anything about it, why it was conducted, or who participated. I try not to pry into extradistrict matters. If I was here, I should find out what I was doing. Proceed. Good luck. You'll not get information on a confidential operation from your station secretary just by calling. If you really don't remember, it might be better to keep this one forgotten. I don't believe in that. It happened a while ago. It's unimportant to our business in Martindale now. I'm going to turn away and leave all the rest of the reading because we're over time for the next episode. For the moment, though, my name is Rhapsody. The name of the game has been Elysium. Hopefully you've been enjoying yourselves, and hopefully we'll see you next time.